The year 895, the island of Hrafnseri. After a 6-month absence, the Konung Arvandil gets back home. The man has brought gold and jewelry from a distant quest, as well as slaves capable of serving in his domain. Berserk is happy to be reunited with his family, his beloved wife Garuda, and teenage son, Amleth. In the evening, the family drinks and revels, after which they are joined by Fjellnir, the Konung's brother, who cares only for his son, Thorir. A little later, Aurvandil confesses to his wife that he has a serious wound and is slowly bleeding to death. The man may not have long to live, so he wants his son to be a worthy heir. At night, Aurvandil and Amleth go to the sorcerer Hymir's house, where they behave like wild wolves. Animal instincts drive the king and his son as they are true Vikings, ready to fight for their future. Amleth becomes his father's true heir, promising not to shed a single tear in the future. In the morning, Aurvandil is attacked by archers and badly wounded. Surrounding the king, the warriors force the man to fall to his knees and beg for mercy. It turns out that Fjellnir is behind all this, determined to take his brother's life. Amleth, hiding nearby, is forced to watch helplessly. Realizing that his father is gone, the boy hides in the forest. Fjellnir orders Amleth's head to be brought, and one of his servants catches the teenager. Defending himself, he strips his opponent of his nose and escapes. Amleth returns home and sees that Fjellnir has captured his mother, determined to make her his wife. The guard, fearing execution, says he has disposed of the boy, but his body has been carried away by the waves of the raging sea. Meanwhile, Amleth sails away in a boat and vows revenge, saying the same thing. "I will avenge you, father. I will save you, mother. I will take your life, Fjellnir." Years later, Amleth, taken in by Vikings and raised as a berserker, embarks on a dangerous journey. Along the way, warriors take the lives of random civilians, but the man pays no attention. After night ritual dances and preparations for battle, the berserk army attacks Gardariki, which is part of Russia. The locals notice the enemies in wolfskins, but are unable to resist the ruthless Vikings. Having overcome high wooden walls, berserkers attack people, knowing no mercy. As they spill the blood of their enemies, they take the lives of all the men in the village. Gathering the children, the berserkers lock them in the temple of Saint Vidovit, after which they set it on fire. Despite his callousness and cruelty, Amleth realizes that this is wrong, but he cannot stop what is happening and speak out against the Vikings who sheltered him as a young boy. At night, when everyone is asleep, he goes to the burned temple and meets a seer in it. She tells Amleth that Fjellnir's revenge will be finished, but he will have to make a difficult choice: payback or love. The next morning, the berserkers separate the captives, sending some to Kiev and some deciding to transfer them to Iceland. When Amleth hears that Fjellnir will be the new owner of the slaves, he learns that his uncle has been banished from the kingdom. Considering him a despicable man who took his own brother's life, Harald the Fair-Haired got rid of Fjellnir, forcing him to leave his domain once and for all. Seeing the black raven and taking it as a symbol to remind him of his father, Amleth decided not to miss the opportunity to come face to face with the traitor. Branding himself, the man hurried after the departing ship and entered the deck, pretending to be a Slavic slave. On his way to Iceland, Amleth meets a charming girl, Olga, who claims to have magical powers. She realizes that the slave is not Slavic, for she senses in him the wild Viking strength. Amleth decides to be honest with Olga and tells her about wanting revenge on his uncle, who deprived him of his family. Fjellnir is not interested in slaves, but Amleth attracts attention by forcing him and several other girls, including Olga, to buy him. Amleth learns that his uncle is married to his mother and they have a child together, Gunnar. On the first night, Amleth decides to steal a weapon, but is stopped by an animal that has stolen a chicken from the pen. For the next few days, the slave works hard and takes the opportunity to get to Fjellnir's house to see his mother. At night, the man follows the strange animal that visits the village at night and ends up in the sorcerer's cave. The old magician knows everything about Amleth, since Hymir told him the story of the boy and his father. As it turned out, Fjellnir was cruel and took the sorcerer's life. Despite this, Amleth has the opportunity to communicate with the dead man, as the mage can facilitate their spiritual dialogue. Thanks to this, the man raised by Vikings learns about the magic sword Draugr, which is meant just for him. After receiving a rope conjured from a dangerous snake, Amleth goes to the barrow, where he finds the coveted blade. He is protected by the undead, a mighty and huge inhabitant of the mound. Amleth, not without difficulty, copes with the enemy, after which it turns out that it was all a test going on in his head. After getting his sword, he returns to the village and hides from the guards, trying to find a safe place for his weapon. At one point, a dog notices Amleth and starts barking, drawing attention to him, but the man's wolfish growl scares the animal away. Hearing Fjellnir in one of the barns nearby, Amleth sees the man molesting Olga, but the girl gives him a decent fight back and stains the insolent man's face with blood. Promising to use the sword soon, the berserker hides it in the thicket of the roof of the main house. In the morning, Thorir, Fjellnir's eldest son, chooses Amleth to participate in a game of Nathliker. Going to a neighboring farm, the elite watch 2 teams of 5 slaves play, trying to score a ball into the enemy's goal. In doing so, the game is very violent as they can beat each other with wooden sticks. The game turns into a real brawl, leaving only 2 players, Amleth and a huge opponent who is ready to take his life. At one point, Little Gunnar decides to score the winning goal, but the big man attacks him. He decides to take the boy's life, but Amleth saves him and smashes his head into the opponent's face. In the evening during the celebration, Thorir thanks the servant for his help and promotes him to overseer of the other servants. He also allows him to choose a woman, knowing that Amleth is in love with Olga and wants to be with her. While the general merriment continues, the couple secludes themselves in the woods and makes love. Olga knows all of Amleth's plans and is willing to help in order to get revenge on Fjellnir and make him suffer. Slowly beginning to realize the plan, the Viking waits until nightfall and takes the lives of several of Thorir's friends. In the morning, Fjellnir's son finds the bodies of his comrades folded into the image of a centaur, leading the others to think it was the work of an evil spirit. A local woman confirms the assumptions and offers to sacrifice to the gods so that they will not be angry with them. In the evening, Fjellnir and his family prepare to send one of the slave girls to the other world when they hear a wolf howl. It drives the dog mad, causing him to attack his masters. Fjellnir takes his life to escape, and Amleth saves the girl sentenced to execution by replacing her with one of his uncle's men. Olga decides to help Amleth and cook soup with fly agaric, causing the guards to experience violent hallucinations. After taking the lives of several of them, he sneaks into Fjellnir's house, going unnoticed amid the resulting chaos. Once in the bedroom, Amleth meets his mother and reveals his true identity to her. He is ready to save Gudrun, but she is unwilling to do so. As it turns out, she hated her husband and begged Fjellnir to take his life. Moreover, Gudrun was not a decent woman, and Amleth's conception took place against her will. Using the moment, the woman tries to seduce her son and promises him a place of leadership. Amleth kisses Gudrun, but her charms do not work on him. Enraged, he takes Thorir's life and steals his heart. After fleeing from home, Amleth tells Olga about it and hides in the forest. In the morning, Fjellnir learns what has happened and mourns for his dead son. Gudrun reveals Amleth's true identity to her husband, ordering him to be dealt with once and for all. Realizing that he has allies among the slaves, Fjellnir gathers them in front of his son's body and selectively takes their lives. Olga's turn comes, but Amleth appears, offering to exchange the girl's life for Thorir's heart. Olga runs away, frightened, and this disappoints the Viking. Without resisting, he allows himself to be beaten and captured by the guards. It turns out that the pouch contains the heart of an animal, not Fjellnir's son, so he ties Amleth up and beats him to find Thorir's heart. When the uncle leaves, a flock of crows flies into the barn and begins pecking at the rope to free Amleth from his shackles. In the evening, the family performs a ritual with a sacrifice to sprinkle themselves with blood and complete their revenge. Breaking into the barn, they realize that Amleth has escaped safely. The Viking thinks the Valkyrie has come for him to take him to paradise, but in fact, Olga has returned and rescued him. The couple take a boat to the Orkney Islands, where they can be alone together and not be afraid of being found. Amleth decides to forget about the place because he has a loved one beside whom he wants to spend his whole life. The couple hides and finds a boat meant for Thorir. They sail away to safety, but Amleth touches Olga's wound with his lips and sinks into a vision, where he learns that the girl is pregnant with twins. A boy and a girl will take a place on the throne, and the daughter will become the Maiden Queen, just as the seer had predicted. Realizing that Fjellnir will not leave his family alone and will take revenge for the rest of his life, Amleth decides to return. Olga kisses her beloved and begs him not to leave her, but he cannot do otherwise. Jumping out of the boat, Amleth decides to take his uncle's life and returns to the farmhouse. Under the cover of night, he attacks the guards and silences them forever, including the man without a nose. After giving the slaves their freedom, Amleth sneaks into Fjellnir's house. Gudrun attacks her eldest son, but he pierces her heart. Little Gunnar throws himself on Amleth's back and stabs him several times, but the Viking handles him as well. Seeing that his nephew has taken the lives of his wife and son, Fjellnir proposes to meet at the gates of Hell, near the crater of the volcano Hekla, where they can resolve the conflict in a fair fight between the two Vikings. Fjellnir drags away the bodies of Gudrun and Gunnar, and the freed slaves burn the farmhouse. At dawn, Amleth goes to the crater of the volcano, where he sees his mother's body and bids her farewell. Amleth and Fjellnir meet in a fierce sword fight at the volcano, which is boiling with red-hot lava. The uncle badly wounds his nephew, but loses his head. The exhausted Amleth falls to the ground, and before falling into eternal sleep, sees the future. Olga embraces the twin children and misses her favorite person. After this, a Valkyrie appears, who takes Amleth's soul and carries him through the gates of Valhalla. We hope you enjoyed watching. Thanks for liking and subscriptions. See you soon.